What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the GameDay Squad football show brought to you by the GameDay Society. We are up to round 24. We are almost 2/3 of the way through the season. How you been, Don? How's your week?
I think the better question is, how was yours?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. It was not a bad week, to be honest. Nice lazy one. Did all right in a few competitions. I don't know if you caught the leaderboard last week, did you? Round 23.
It was a big week for you and Stealth. Like, basically, I think you two took out majority of the sport leaderboards.
Yeah, no, it was a good one. So, I mean, not to gloat, but I took out first in champion and challenger and second in classic, which was huge. Considering which the crazy part to me is that I had two completely different teams in champion and challenger. So it wasn't like I just missed the bad ones. So we just had a little bit of a jump in the connection there. Just make sure that everything's still going okay. I think it is. Cool. So how did you go, though? I mean, I know you didn't come first, but
yeah, I couldn't have. Classic was like not great. It was low total. Everyone was getting low totals across the board, though, except you. No, it was like 168 points for like 50 something. But the other two comps were alright. I think I was like 8th in champ, which is good. And then like teens, low to high teens in the challenger comp.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a solid result, and they're the kind of results you just need to keep ticking over. What I think got a lot of people was there are a lot of big outs, which, probably the biggest talking point of the round was Haaland starting on the bench, Foden starting on the bench. It was leaked, but it's just how much did you trust the leak, I guess, was the question.
Yeah, particularly like there's so many of them coming out. Like the first leak that I saw was from a guy that like very clearly in the end was like talking complete nonsense and just guessing, as anyone could. He even went as far as going to change his tweet, like deleting his tweet that Helen was starting to he's not starting when the more reputable source leaked the info. The thing too that I like to take into account with these sort of things is if they've got huge amount of followers on Twitter and they like this source that came out had 150,000 followers, puts out a weekly newsletter, has subscription, that sort of stuff, so probably reliable.
Yeah, the moment I realized it was probably legit was Fantasy Scout, which is the big site that kind of does predicted lineups and that kind of stuff. They changed their predicted lineup based on this source. So to me, they trusted that it must be legit. So it was. I mean, if you roll back the tape, you'll probably see that I also predicted it in the round 23 episode. I was calling it that Haaland wouldn't start.
And you said that I was saying that it wasn't.
Yeah, and it was good that it happened in a way because I had Mamouche to bring on, which was exciting because I don't normally get to play him. But I almost wish that it wasn't leaked just so that I could have got even. I mean, look, I can't complain. I did great last week, but the amount of people that probably would have just started Haaland, it kind of no longer became a tactical decision that I made. It was just everyone was reading the lineup. So in some ways it was annoying, but it was still nice. But other than that, were there any other standouts or, I guess, negatives, I would say, to the week for you, Zon?
Not really. I got caught up by the same stuff. So I caught the leak, ended up making the decision to take Haaland out. The main one was that got a fair few people from the looks of it, was Hume. So who we have on our little advertisement just there. Yeah. First time I'd actually seen him play. Like I've seen Sunderland play before. I just hadn't really focused on him. And like he just did not look like he was very good under pressure, I'll say. Like they were pressuring them pretty highly. He was playing in a different midfield, like left or right mid role. And every time he got put under pressure, he gave the ball up. So I could pretty much tell within that first 30 minutes he was getting subbed pretty early, and halftime usually the case. And like then the penalty giving it away just topped everything off. He was actually like, he missed a header close to goal, which could have like been really good for him and would have probably kept him on the ground. But yeah, unfortunately, went the other way and he went into negatives.
Yeah, it's what I mean. I know we shouldn't be talking about round 23 too much, and we should be just looking ahead to round 24. But what made you and I guess everyone else pick him? Because we hadn't really looked at him that much, and then all of a sudden everyone had him in their side.
Yeah, so I think there's a sort of, I wouldn't call it phenomenon, but whenever you get access to, like, especially if it's just one lineup, you feel security in going for players that start, especially if you've got a favourable matchup like Sunderland had, albeit it was away. To top it off, playing out of position. So if a defender for me that's, I say likely, it didn't happen at all when they conceded 3, but a defender that's looking likely to keep a clean sheet is playing an attack and roll. So in his case, I think it was right mid. I'm going to be drawn to him. And I figured that's what a lot of players were, especially in that fullback sort of wing back role, because more likely you're probably going to get towards getting an attacking result, like an assist or a goal.
Yeah, had a lot of like doggo about it, didn't it? Where they've like defensive in like defender in GameDay Squad, but they're sitting very attacking. And I mean, it's a comment here from Aston. Welcome Aston to the show.
Yeah, well,
yeah, doggo injury is frustrating, but it's one that we're kind of, I think everyone was just on the verge of about to kind of lock them in as a defender anyway. So it's probably not as big a deal, especially in GameDay Squad, as most people are thinking, because everyone would have had him and now no one's going to have him. So, yeah.
It should mean that Kuna does start, because it was hard to keep him out too. I think that's 2 games off the bench. He scored both times in. So it's like he was going to come in, but who for? And Buemo's been doing well up top. So it's probably like Diallo that goes, Dorgu shifts to the other side. Might not work as well. So, yeah, this just means Kuna becomes an option again.
Yeah, well, let's save that for the United matchup, and we'll jump into the fixtures because we're here to talk about round 24, not round 23, as much as it was an incredible week, especially for the lads on Toure. So let's jump in to the first game of the round, which is one of the, was it 4 games we had lineups for? 3 or 4?
3 we get, and like I would argue one of them are really good. A couple of the others, it's like whatever, but yeah, nice to have them.
Yeah, so the first game in those 3 early games is Brighton Everton. So this is kind of it's a bit of a wish-washy game, I think, where I don't know that there's no one I would confidently like to pick in this game. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one because historically this has been low scoring. I think Everton have a slight edge, but it's like one of those 1-0, 1-1 sort of scenarios. Brighton typically a lot better at home than they are away. Everton's sort of like here or there. They're just a good defensive team that plays low blockish. Started the season a bit more attack and thrown that away a bit. Good news for Everton is they get back. Well, NDR looked pretty decent, albeit he was the lone option last round, so he had to do a lot of it on his own. Meant there's a lot of focus defensively on him too. KDH should be back. Played 45 off the bench. Didn't look the greatest, but pretty rusty coming back from that injury. Grealish probably still out. We're not sure how long that's going to be yet. They're yet to really put a timeline on it.
I think it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. It could even be a case of he goes back to Man City and the loan gets cancelled because it might be that long. I've heard rumours about that. Wow. But their attacking force is back a little, which probably means Barry's in decent form. I don't really like Barry as a play in terms of eye test sort of stuff, but could go either way in this one, which means you're probably gravitating towards the defenders and the goalkeepers if it's going to be a close one. I wouldn't think there's too many goals in it.
Yeah. So I guess, Pickford's a pretty safe bet then most weeks. Tarkowski as well.
He can just score without the cleans too. So if it does end up being like a 1-0 to Brighton, then Tarkowski could still get a heap of points.
Yeah. So are you saying like selectable or like an option? Like as in, like someone you should be chasing or someone who, if you have them, they're not a bad.
I think Tarkowski definitely in that like top 10 you're sort of looking at for defenders this week. especially if you think Everton win this one or they draw it, and there's no goals. Brighton, same deal with Ben Heke. So you could go either or with those two. Ben Heke, especially recently, has been stacking points in some games. I think I've mentioned this previously, more selectable if he's a chance of scoring. Not too bad. Everton don't concede a ton of goals. Even split between set pieces and general play when they do concede. So could be a chance. It's just I'd back Tarkowski over him in this one. Same with the keepers, both selectable, but I'd back Pickford because I think you'll see more of it.
Yeah. There's a player I've got up there who I know you've been pretty keen to get your hands on, Pascal Gross or Grouse or however you want to call it. First of all, have you managed to find one? And second, would you consider them against Everton? The midfield is slightly positive. Oh, sorry, no, it's negative. I forgot that I've changed the images around. So based on the numbers there on the screen, we're expecting the Brighton midfielders to have a slight drop in the average of about 0.44, but probably negligible.
Yeah. I just feel like there's a lot, a decent amount of midfielders selectable this week, in this game where the chances of a midfielder scoring a goal probably going to be a bit lower because it's probably going to be low scoring. So it's sort of that Garner and Gross scenario in this game. I would say you're looking at midfielders for.
Mm-hmm.
Both can get stackable points without assisting and scoring. I would say Gross is probably more likely to stack because Everton sit a bit lower and he can see more of the ball and set up the play. So I don't think he's a horrible option. It's just sort of probably looking between Fernandes, Elliot Anderson, Gross to fill at least max 2 spots in your midfield this week, if not just one. And I'm going Bruno most of the time this week for sure. So it's do I want one of those players who probably isn't going to score, but might just get the job done with that typical 10 to 18 points.
Yeah. If you're getting 10 to 18 points from 11 players, that's almost a winning score. So I've found lately, and speaking from someone who knows how to win, sorry, I need to stop.
Someone who knows how to fill in a second over here.
Yeah. It's more about missing the bad scores than picking the good ones, I think, is where you win rounds. So, yeah, I think you're almost better off picking those just, accumulators rather than kind of picking the...
Chasing goals.
Yeah. But I think that's most of it. How do you see this game going?
1-0, 0-0, 1-0 type of game. I don't think there'll be many goals at all.
Yeah. No, I agree, which you're right, it does make Pickford and Tarkowski probably pretty tasty options. We'll jump into game 2. Next one, probably the one that we want to know the lineups for, because there's a bit going on over at Arsenal with underperforming, although some of the underperforming players at Arsenal are still capitalising in GameDay Squad, which is nice at least. So, of course, talking about Saka, who, in other platforms like Fantasy Premier League has been struggling, but in GameDay Squad, because it's more of a holistic score, he's converting decent points still. I guess we'll start with Arsenal because they've got the bigger names to talk about. How do you see, historically, defence has been the strong point for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Leeds at home, though, do you see them scoring?
Yeah, I sort of do in this one. Arsenal haven't been the greatest defensively like they were at the start of the season. It's probably because they're getting injuries and getting people back from injury. Leeds are an interesting prospect. They've been pretty good. It's ever since there was a rumoured cloud over the head of their manager about getting sacked, and then he just went on a really good run where he beat Chelsea, drew Liverpool. I think they had a close game with City in there. So I feel like they could get one here just because of the way they've set up. And it might just give Arsenal a bit of a false sense of hope to attack, and then they get in behind and Calvert-Lewin converts, something like that. Stack's pretty good as well at set plays.
Yeah. But I guess coming off the conversation of we shouldn't be chasing those, is that too much risk? Like for me, it probably is.
Like it's difficult because most people are probably going to pick Gabriel, of course. The Champions League lineups gave us a bit of an idea of what we can expect for starters on the weekend. Like, we don't need it this week, funnily enough. It's one of the first times we haven't needed it yet. With the way Arteta's selected, you're probably going to get Declan Rice because he was suspended this morning play. He's probably going to start. Odegaard played 45. His sub was interesting because Havertz, who was on fire in the game and is back from injury, they play similar roles, so they're going to have to, unless he plays striker. They played a half each, so I don't know if that's leaned towards one player. Probably more likely Havertz just got a rest in because he's fresh back from a long-term injury. So I would say Odegaard probably starts in there too. That's two of the midfielders. Jesus didn't start. He started the previous Premier League game. I would say because Jokeris played the majority today, Jesus is the striker for the weekend.
Yeah.
We don't really need to be discussing this much in depth because we get the lineups. But it's nice to like plan ahead and know that you're probably going to see Saka start too because he didn't start in the Champions League. So you can nail down Saka. You can probably pick Rice. They're probably going to accumulate against this Leeds type side. And then you can look at Timber, you can look at Gabriel because they both didn't start as well. Yeah. Unless I don't think Timber did.
No, well, Timber is on the injury list as a niggle, but that's an Arteta injury list, so I don't really know or care, and it doesn't really matter because we'll know as long as you're willing to stay up. So I guess risk of Leeds scoring kind of puts Raya maybe out of the picture because it doesn't have a lot to do generally, and then also without that clean sheet is going to be pretty underwhelming. Gabriel's Gabriel, like accumulates, seems safe option.
Chance to score all the time too.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I'm looking at this game. I'm probably going to go pretty heavy on Arsenal players this week, I think.
I agree, especially because last time they played, it was like a 5-0. So it's like, especially so Leeds are playing slightly more attacking the last few weeks and it's worked for them. But against Arsenal, it could backfire pretty quickly and they could concede a lot of goals.
Yeah. I think it's like Leeds are a good side for a newly promoted side, but it's, Arsenal who will set up strongly and make it hard. So I think that's it for that, unless you have anyone else.
Not really. For anyone, like, I know Aston is new to the stream and anyone in general, when we're discussing like these lockout lineups, it's because GameDay Squad is in line with the first game kicking off. That's when all the players lock out. So it's good this week because we get 3 games of lineups because they come out an hour and 15 minutes before the kickoff time. So you get to see who's starting and be a bit more sure with your selections.
Yeah, so I think EPL locks out a bit earlier, which caused even more drama with the FPL. Caused more drama with the Haaland stuff, but we get right up until basically the minute of kickoff, and then it's locked in for the full round. One other thing I did forget to mention, especially with the new people in the chat, is that we are doing a giveaway at the end of the show where we open up a couple of packs. We keep a row of, I keep a row of cards, Zonal keeps a row of cards, and then one winner from the chat gets the last one. We'll just go through that at the end. All right. Third game, final teams is Wolves versus Bournemouth. And I have a sneaking suspicion that we might both be picking a Wolves player possibly for the first time this season.
Yeah, it was definitely in a while. Like, I think we're on the same sort of thing, and I've got some stats to back it up, like historical sort of stuff. So I was looking through. The main thing that gets me is Bournemouth, and this is even more so now without Semenyo and without Tavernier, presumably because he might be injured again. But so Bournemouth have they haven't won in their last 9 away Premier League games. So then draws or losses. And on top of that, they've conceded at least 2 goals in 8 of those 9 games. So, like, it's Wolves. Keep in mind, Wolves have been a bit better since that new manager came in. It could be like a 3-0 win to Bournemouth because it's Wolves. But I'm just thinking, with that type of form line, they're defenders who people might end up picking because it's Wolves. You could get a decent advantage on people if they end up stinking it up and concede 2 or more goals.
Yeah. So for those people at home who have just been ignoring Wolves because they've kind of been a bit irrelevant in a system where you can pick anyone you like, who are you fancying in this one from Wolves?
Well, you set me on to Brano a few rounds, a lot of rounds ago now. He's just an accumulator. He was out of the lineup for a bit when the new manager came in, but then he had a wild game where I think he had like 2 assists or a goal and an assist and went crazy. So with the accumulators, it's obviously good because you're more assured of the points. They might concede a few here to Bournemouth anyway. It could be like a 2-2, 2-3 games sort of game. But he's shown in games where they do concede multiple goals, he can still get like an 11-plus score. And then if he assists or scores on top of that, because he plays in such a friendly role as that wing back or wide midfielder, then, yeah, irrelevant of the clean sheet. Dorgu's done it a bunch of times. He's a similar sort of asset.
Yeah, so he's coming off the back of, well, 2. So last week against City, 7.5, so not the best, but against City as a defender, you're not really expecting much. But before that, 16.5, 16.25, and then 30. And that 30 was kind of where he came back into the side. So I think he's probably a key cog in this almost transition of Wolves trying to escape relegation with a new manager. So I think he's the one that, I mean, he is the one I'll be targeting this week. What about you?
So, yeah, I've got him in my lineup at the moment. Other 2 I'm thinking of, I like Mane. He's a forward in GameDay Squad and he plays as a central midfielder / attacking midfielder. He can play like in the front 3 too. But it's hard this week because there's so many good forward options. So he's in my mind of thinking not in the squad yet, been in and out sort of. He's a really good young player, lots of pace, really good, like, talented footballer. And this midfield role is real interesting for him. Whether I think they play like a flat 5 across, so 3 central midfielders, and he's one of them.
Yeah. What one thing I think I heard was, did Sarr get sold?
Which Sarr?
As in the keeper.
Oh, Jose Sarr. I haven't seen anything they could have.
No, I thought I heard somewhere that he's gone to Crystal Palace to be their reserve keeper, which is crazy to go from it. But that may have just been a rogue tweet, which I'm good at reporting on this show. I'll have a quick Google. But
it's interesting because he was my other option because he's likely to see the ball more than the Bournemouth keeper. If it does go as like Bournemouth easily win the game, but it's a low scorer, or if it's just, like we say, 2-3, even with those, he could get a ton of saves from the Bournemouth attack.
Yeah, there's a decent chance I've just made that up because I can't find it anywhere. I don't know. I've definitely heard it, but anyway, you shouldn't listen to everything you hear, especially on this show. Bournemouth, I guess Petrovic could be a decent shout, I think.
It depends if you think this is going, like, I'm on the line of thinking that I think it's going to be a high-scoring game for both teams. But if you think Bournemouth keep the clean sheet because it's Wolves, go with that. Pick Petrovic because he's probably still going to get some chances given they concede some away. Go with Jimenez, like you got on screen, decent option because he's playing the attacking 3 while Tavernier's out. Has done it a few weeks and rounds before that too. So it's a role that is sort of like in and out for. Again, good thing with him being a defender is it's out of position. He still gets the clean if they keep it, but he gets attacking points from where he's playing. So decent pick. Treffaire's there. He tends to do pretty well, regardless of the clean. Senesi's the one that accumulates a lot. So you could probably back them in, and even if they don't get the clean, they're probably going to score all right against Wolves.
Yeah. And I've just confirmed my suspicions. It wasn't Crystal Palace, it was Nottingham Forest, but he is in talks with them. So I don't know if that is going to throw any flags about starting Sa. I mean, probably
avoid them
anyway, but I wonder if that could impact Wolves as a whole. If they're selling their number one keeper, that's never a good sign for ambitions.
Yeah, it's weird because maybe they've got someone else in mind to bring in, and it just needs this to facilitate first. Johnson, him and Sa were rotating at the start of the season, so Johnson's like good enough to just step in.
Yeah, true.
So, probably just don't touch the Wolves keeper then if you were like thinking of it.
And I think as well there was talk of Strand Larson heading over to Palace. Maybe that's what I was getting confused with. We had TC's mentioned Strand Larson going to Palace. I think Mateta gone now, so
that makes sense. They've been benching Strand Larson anyway recently, so
yeah, he's kind of an irrelevant player. But let's move on to the next one. Game 4, so we won't know the lineups for this one. Chelsea West Ham. Palmer didn't start, didn't play last.
No, he played this one. When he came on, he got to assist.
Oh no, sorry. When he
last
round, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess
Injury.
it's going to be interesting. Do you have any confidence starting him going forward?
I'm thinking if he came off the bench, he must be up to fitness now. And the manager did say that in his presser last week. He said he wasn't good enough to play this round, but he'll be in the Champions League squad. It'll be better by then. Whether that reoccurs or not, I would say as long as there's no reoccurrence, he should then start on the weekend. And based on his form today, I know he was in ripper touch against. It was Napoli right this one. Napoli aren't like no easy beats either. Despite them, I don't think they qualified in the end for the knockouts.
But that's still like a decent, like that's a Premier League equivalent side, really. So it's it's a good indicator that he's still a reasonable pick if we're confident. One player who potentially got me up into the winning numbers as well was Estevao, who I started last week on a bit of a hunch that he'd get a game because he's been in and out when he really should probably just be in, to be honest. The way he's been, when he's on, the way he plays is just incredible.
He looks like the best player.
Do you think with the new manager, he's going to get the minutes he deserves, or is he, because he's young, is he still going to get that rotation?
I think you get rotated slightly, not as much as he was with the past manager. I reckon the new ones come in and just clean slated it and been like, cool, you're a really good player, you're going to play. So he's getting a lot of minutes. It will come into it eventually. Like, let's say he plays 2 in a row, he might then get a rest. Whereas someone like a Palmer, fully fit, no injuries, probably gets like 3 in a row before he gets rested.
Yeah.
So I think he started this morning, didn't he? So he may be in line for a benching. Whereas someone like João Pedro, who started the Champions League, I think, and the EPL, is probably going to just play 3 in a row with his form. It's hard to leave him out.
Yeah, he's one that I think I'm starting this week just purely on matchup. Although West Ham last week looked actually pretty good, which was interesting considering it was a lineup that we all targeted. Is there anyone from West Ham that you could consider in this one?
It's like that result last week makes it interesting because let's say if that went the other way and Sunderland did as we expected, everyone would be stacking up on Chelsea players completely. I think you still got to, this week with West Ham and Sunderland, you sort of just got to take last week out of the equation a bit. It's a way Chelsea are like Sunderland normally are a good defensive team, even better under the new manager they've looked like. So Chelsea's close to probably full strength as well with most of their players back. I'd probably back them in to score quite a few here. They tend to do really well against West Ham too. Let's see, did I have any? No particular stats that I noted down, but they have scored quite a few. They've had a couple of 5 goals in there against West Ham in the recent history.
One player who, having actually watched the West Ham game, quite liked, I've played him a few times, but not last week, was Mateus Fernandes. He's looking at his numbers as well. He's only dropped below 10 points once since round 12. So like he's almost one of those kind of just good floor players of which we can just sit in our side. And then because he's been shooting a bit more lately as well.
Yeah.
You know, those last 2 weeks, 19 and 17, that's like could be a trend.
Paqueta out too has helped him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He takes that a bit more attack and roll, gets more of the ball. Somerville in the lineup too, because occasionally it's been Somerville out of the lineup and he's gone to a wide position, and that sort of brings it down a bit. But essentially, without Paqueta, he gets all the ball and he just distributes.
Yeah. So the 2 games since Paqueta's like not had a minute. Ooh. Sorry, we just had a drop out there, Zonald. You back?
I'm back.
Ooh. Go again.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. There we go. Yeah, so since Paqueta's last minutes in round 21, I think he got a couple of minutes. Both Fernandez and Somerville have both scored in like the 20s both games. So this could be a genuine kind of restructure thing that we should be capitalizing on here. So they've gone 19, 17, 24, 22.5. So even though it's Chelsea, I'm very tempted.
Yeah, because like Chelsea's not perfect. They could definitely concede, especially if it's like, you know how teams get when they're up by like 3 or 4 goals. If it turns into that, could just be a counter-attack goal. Fernandez puts someone through and then Somerville scores on the counter. And then doesn't matter what the result is, if it's a 5-1 or a 4-1, Fernandez assists Fernandez goal, he's getting good points.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we don't really have to consider the result for anyone in the midfield or forward. Talking about Chelsea potentially conceding, Cucurella, Chalobah, these kind of guys, is there going to be enough kind of action for them to do well? I think we saw last week defense against West Ham was not great.
I think so. I actually back a clean sheet here for Chelsea. So I'm tempted to go. I've currently got Chalobah and I've got Sanchez in there. Mainly because I'm always unsure on Reece James, whether he's going to start. Cucurella's probably fully back now. It's probably going to play pretty much every game. So I think Chalobah, who does pretty much play every game, they've got defensive injuries in centre back. So I think he's a bit more safe. West Ham are terrible from like set pieces. So Chalobah capable of scoring off of a corner or a free kick. So I'm going to probably back him in there. And then Sanchez is probably going to see enough action because of the improvement from West Ham. Their best players are their attackers too. So
yeah, it just kind of felt like all of West Ham's chances last week weren't really savable. So like even if they do get a few chances, are they going to be that good that they can't be? I don't know. I'm a bit nervous about starting Chelsea assets down back. Ooh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, for sure.
Could you hear me before? Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm just a little bit nervous about starting any kind of Chelsea assets down back. I guess the last one I don't think we talked about him was Bowen, who has been, I guess, in my head he's been consistent and like kind of a stable scorer, but the numbers don't necessarily reflect that. I think maybe, in the last week he did great, 28.5, but before that there's only been one score above 10 in the last 6 or 7 games. So yeah, West Ham are kind of probably on the rise. They're, that relegation battle, which they're, starting to kind of gel, maybe will be a key part of that, but I don't think I'm Team Bowen right now.
Yeah, probably a more difficult direct matchup too this week. Last week, Ronaldo just looked out of sorts. He was outpacing him, getting around him. Cucurella's a bit of a different prospect. Like, he's going to be a lot harder to pass. He's a good 1v1 defender when he's back there. So, yeah I'd say, it's hard. if it was a bit more favourable matchup where they're probably more likely to score, then you'll look at them a bit more. But
yeah. One thing that I've noticed from the predicted lineups is that they don't have Pedro starting. They've got Delap up front. I guess, how big a risk do you think it is playing Pedro, given the form versus, I guess, the risk of not starting?
Yeah, it's always hard with this sort of thing because, like, he likes Delap and he's coached him before. I think it was at Hull. When he first got there, he was playing the two big strikers as if he wanted a natural striker there. Palmer likely to be back, so it throws it a bit more like he's probably either playing striker or he's having a rest. I would think, based off of his form in the past 2 games, he probably gets the start and you don't just throw him out of there. Because it is West Ham, though. So maybe that comes into thought and they go, oh, let's just give him a rest in this one.
Yeah. Interestingly, they also don't have Cucurella starting. So I don't know where they've got this idea from. But he's not injured. He's not suspended. Just must be rested. So
yeah, he does like Haddo as well. I assume they've got Haddo there. The other one I'm looking, so I look at the 2 different unpredicted sites now. The other one has Cucurella starting. This one obviously has Hatto starting. So the manager has mentioned in a couple of press conferences he likes him. He wants to give him opportunities. Like, talked about him for a good couple of minutes. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets a game here or there.
Yeah, okay. I mean, as always, these are predicted lineups, so we've got to kind of take them with a grain of salt. But it's, it always puts a bit of doubt in my mind. But let's push on here.
Yeah, I think Chalobah's safe because I think Tosson's out. Cole was obviously out for the most of the year, has been most of the year. So probably gets a start.
Yeah, I think he would be the one I'd be going if I had to. Liverpool, Newcastle, your Liverpool boys. Salah, what do you reckon?
Yeah, he's back from the Champions League this week. I don't know, though, because it's like opposition was obviously like not the greatest, not to disrespect them or anything. Newcastle, one of the better teams in the Prem, if you were to just to not look at the table necessarily, because they've had an up and down year, particularly away. So that's what sort of like favours us a bit this week. Newcastle away haven't been very good. We haven't been the greatest at home either, greatest in general. But I don't know. I feel like so we obviously lost in the last minute last week, and I would say we were outdone by Newcastle's performance against Villa, given it was a home game for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's. Do you think Salah is a startable asset now?
It's gone well against Newcastle in the past. So in general, I think Salah comes back into contention because it seems like he's back into his starting role. Got some form at AFCON too. I don't think this is the game for it though, with the Lewis Hall matchup. So if it's Dan Burn, then different. But yeah, I'm not too keen on really too many players from this game in general. You could probably go your normal stackers in Sosbly because he's on the set pieces. You could probably throw Wirtz in there. But yeah, apart from like Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle, because we do concede a little bit of stats. Maybe a Pope because he's probably going to get a lot of chances against him.
Now, is Bruno back, I guess, is the question.
Just depends on that.
Yeah, he's, I mean, again, predicted lineups, but he is predicted to start.
Both of them have him starting.
One thing I'm curious to get your take on is Frimpong injured. How does that affect Szoboszlai's, I guess, positioning or lineup, and then in turn scoring? And then how does that affect, say, Salah's ability as well if they're lining up on the same side?
Tricky. I've always said with Salah that I much prefer when he's getting overlap and fullback, because when he does, he cuts inside and he acts more like a central midfielder or central attacking midfielder or a striker, and he plays so well because his pace comes out of the equation. So I liked him a lot better last week when Frimpong was there. Sosbly obviously cuts inside because he wants to hit that midfield position. Could be him. It could be Calvin Ramsey because Slot has said he's there as an option. He ineligible for Champions League, so he couldn't play this morning. So we could see him come into it. Gomez has obviously had some injury issues, so probably won't see him out there. I would say it's one of those two. I don't see Jones going back there. They'll probably throw Sosway there first.
Okay.
Another interesting point for this game is both teams have swapped their formations recently. Newcastle are playing with a back three with Hall and their other fullback at the moment is Trippier on like a left mid, right mid scenario, wing back sort of deal. Whereas Liverpool have moved to the 4-2-2 we're playing at the moment.
Yeah. It looks weird on paper.
So we could get a completely different result to what I'm expecting. There's usually goals in this game, so I wouldn't touch the defenders unless you're confident Van Dijk scores or assists. I'd be more gravitating towards the attackers. But yeah, with the two new formations, we could get either side blitz the other, and then
I always feel very nervous picking a forward from Newcastle just because of that genuine rotation between two genuine options. Kind of makes it, it's going to be like a Ekatike, Isaac kind of situation once they're both fit. So I, again, wouldn't go there.
Who started for Newcastle this morning? Because the good thing about the Champions League with that sort of scenario is it gives you a decent indication. Not always correct, but it was Vault made. So I would say Visa's probably going to.
Yeah, okay. With that midfield, with Bruno being a maybe, does that make Tonali a bit more interesting, do you think?
It depends, because the bad thing about this formation change for them is it means they've only got the two central midfielders. Obviously limits who plays in there. And they've got plenty of options at the moment. It's Tonali, it's Ramsey, who played this morning there, and Jolinton. I would say it's going to be Tonali and Bruno, but it's also more likely that one of them gets subbed, and if it is, it's probably not Bruno, it's probably Tonali. So it may reduce his minutes and from towards high 80s into the high 60s, low 70s.
Even with returning from injury, though?
Yeah. I think it was a minor one to Bruno, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's straight back into doing full games.
Yeah, right. Okay. So maybe a bit ambitious to kind of be looking there. The other, I guess, fantasy asset in this one for Newcastle is Gordon, who, we'd like to think will do well, but tends to let us down probably more than most other players have this season. Is he like a lost cause at this point for you? He is for me.
Red card last time in this game too, albeit it was a bit he clipped Van Dijk's leg and then got sent. But it's interesting because he obviously gets the matchup against either Sosbola if he's playing right back or inexperienced Ramsey. So I think he probably wins a fair amount of frees drawn. So a couple of gimme points there. And then it's just a matter of if it is a high scoring game both ways, does he contribute to that? And if he does, then he's probably going to score decently. Yeah,
okay. I can't waste a slot on him. It's the only problem. Yeah,
too many good forwards this week.
Yeah. So speaking of good forwards, this game has a lot of GameDay Squad relevant forwards in here, Aston Villa and Brentford. We'll start with Aston Villa, who are, a good team, a very fantasy-friendly team as well, I'd say. My problem is I can never get the Rodgers-Watkins decision right. At the moment, though, it doesn't seem like there's too much of a decision to be made because they're both scoring pretty well.
Yeah. I was going to say, they're both in my lineup at the moment. Watkins has a really good record against Brentford. I think he's even played for Brentford in the past on a loan deal at the start of his career. Rodgers less so, but more recently, I think he kicked 2 goals in a game against them. So I'd say you could go both this week, even though there's a lot of good forwards to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, we're getting probably the best home team. It won't say it on the record, of course, if you look at the table, but I'd say probably one of the best home teams in the league versus probably one of the worst away teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So this could go very high into Villa's favour. Like Brentford conceded one earlier. I think it could be like a 3-4-0. Aston Villa have defensive injuries. I think some of them are back now. So just whether Thiago gets his usual goal, I'm erring towards the more side of it. I think they might not score in this one.
Yeah. What about Sancho? He's someone who I kind of feel
Should
like
start
should
two with
be...
McGinn out.
What was that?
Should start two with McGinn out.
Yeah, like why is he not any what's happened to him?
Gano just dropped off when he went to United.
Yeah.
If he was like his Dortmund self, he'd be a very good GameDay Squad player, I reckon.
Yeah. It feels like if he got a string of runs together, he could be, incredible. But it's just catching that week. But yeah, I mean, Matty Cash.
Yeah, Matty Cash. We all love Matty Cash. I don't like Matston either, because even though Matston's probably a sub late every week because Digne's there, or Luca Dean, he could do enough before he goes off without the clean. It's just you probably want the clean, and that sways you away from picking him unless Luca Dean was out injured or guaranteed not to play.
Yeah.
So it's probably Cash. Cash is the main one we're looking at and going for in the defence. Concert, not a bad alternative, just not as attacking as Cash. Martina's a good option. He's probably going to see some form of action, and they've been keeping clean sheets here and there. He's been scoring really well too. It's just Martinez has had that injury occasionally pop back up, and he's had the halftime sub. So if we can avoid that, then I would say he's one of the better keeper options this week.
Yeah, I do have him on my side. On my field at the moment,
too. Yeah. Aston mentions in the comments the midfield's like an eye. So that's my main worry here. That Kamara, who's been arguably one of the players of the season, Tillemans, who's been good back from injury and creates a lot of the chances, and then McGinn, who's been good too. Having them out, I don't mind Onana. I rate him as like a good defensive, big tall midfielder. Bogart I haven't seen too much of. I know he's a bit versatile, but the creative thing is what does it for me is Sancho and Buendia going to have enough creative spark to then make sure Rodgers doesn't have to drop back, do it all himself, and then take Rodgers' scoring ability out of the game.
Yeah. No, that's where I think I would be leaning towards Watkins this week out of the two. I guess Brentford jumping over that way. With the Brentford struggling away, Aston Villa doing so well at home, that probably rules out anyone further back than midfield, I would say, in this one.
Yeah. It's sort of like Kyoto, of course, he can stack. But like in this game, I don't think I'm going to go to him. Like, again, there's a lot of defensive options this week and potential for cleans. I'd rather go Cash, and it's probably like a matchup of do you select Cash or Kyoto, and then you look at who's more likely to clean sheet because they're both probably going to score similarly attacking wise. So I'm back in Cash in.
Yeah, no, if there's any option, always pick Cash, I'd say. Looking at those more attacking options for Brentford, it'd be Sade and Thiago who you'd be looking at.
Yeah.
Is there any case to pick him this week? Thiago is either like a $3 or a no-goaler kind of player, I think.
Yeah, he's on pens too, so that's important to know. Not that I don't think Villa are particularly high on conceding pens, but if anyone's going to score, it's like if you think Brentford's going to score, you can probably back Thiago because it's probably going to be him. And this week, you're probably going to have a lot less people select him because of the matchup. So it could be a good point of difference. It's just you have to get that goal from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's very much if he doesn't score, he's in the low single figures, not single digits. Yeah, but that probably covers this one, to be honest. We'll keep pushing it forward because we are running a bit behind because we've had a lot to chat about. Mostly to start about the leaderboard. United Fulham.
Yeah.
I hate to see it, but how good did United look?
Yeah, and the Carrick, unbelievable. It's like they want to play for him. It's hard to beat. And like even last week we were saying, so they've just come off beating Man City. Can they go do the double over the top two? And then they beat Arsenal. So this could be like a high scoring one for United. They've done all right against Fulham in the past. It's typically those 2-1, 3-1 type of games. So I think you could, with Dorgo out, it makes it hard to pick a United defender. Delit's out too.
You probably wouldn't be looking at many defensive assets for United anyway, apart from Dorgu. So yeah, I think that probably takes that problem out of our hands. I've got two players there on the screen for United, Bruno and Buemo, two kind of, I guess, similar assets in GameDay Squad. Which one do you prefer at this point?
Oh, Bruno for sure. Like Bruno's just, you have to sort of pick him. So like, but with him being a lock every week, it's like you're sort of looking for other players around, and I'd be happy to double up and pick Buemo, particularly that midfield status in GameDay Squad, because he's literally playing as a sole striker at the moment. So it's like if anyone's going to score, he's probably most likely out of anyone. They're probably going to score a couple against Fulham. Cunha's probably going to be back on that left side to provide just as much, if not, probably just as much as Dorgu was. And then, you'll have Diallo with his speed in a more attacking role than he was under Amorim. So I'd back a lot. You could very well go for two United attackers, two United midfielders this week.
Yeah, I'm almost leaning more towards Buemo this week, just because, sitting as that sole striker in a game where, everything's built around them actually scoring goals now and winning games. He just seems, since he's got back, just like he's slotted straight in. I mean, Bruno, good option. I think, though, I don't know why, but my predictor sheet that I've built has Bruno scoring -4 on his average this week. So I don't know if Fulham are good at shutting down the accumulator kind of players. I haven't looked into it too much. He still scores pretty highly compared to other people, but it's just maybe there's not the stats aren't there to accumulate as much. Cunha coming back, does he then slot into a selectable option, or is there too much kind of?
Oh yeah, for sure. Even when he's come on, he's scored twice, one in each game. So, I think you could very well go and Buemo, Fernandes in the midfield, Ahmad and Cunha up front. You're running that issue of do you have too many attackers from one team, and of course, are they going to share it around in terms of goals and assists? Little bit less important in GameDay Squad because you see the other relevant stats, whereas in FPL you only see the goals and the assists, so you can stack a lot more.
Yeah, no, that's true. Is there any player from Fulham that kind of tempts you? Wilson's been pretty good.
Yeah.
But is it the kind of game where he will have the chance to do anything creative forward?
Yeah, I prefer him against low blocks rather than teams he can counter like a United. I actually don't mind Iwobi if he's looking like he's going to start. It's just if he's going to be in that defensive mid position, takes it a bit less away. Looks more like it'll be a flat midfield, and then he'll be a central midfielder. He's done well in the past against United. That's why I mentioned him.
Yeah, okay. Was that a struggling United though? Probably not.
They have been for the past however long. So
yeah, a while. It's Fergie basically. All right. I think that probably covers it because we covered basically everyone from United and we don't really love anyone from Fulham. So let's keep cracking through so we can open some packs. If you are new joining us to the stream, just make sure you jump in the comments. That will get your name on the wheel. And we spin 2 wheels to give away 2 lots of prizes once we open the packs. So, Forest, Crystal Palace. Muniz back.
Yeah, and Williams.
Yeah.
Very similar players.
Yeah. Is Muniz still a selectable option, would you say?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, both of those two are this week, even though they're playing each other, because we know they're both accumulators in that friendly wing-back sort of role. The clean sheets are irrelevant to them. It's just a bonus if they get them, because they can probably get up to what a lot of defenders can with the clean.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if I've got either in my lineup at the moment, but I definitely, if I haven't put Williams in there, Williams is going in, because I think, yeah, good chance of scoring well. And then if they do keep it clean at home against Palace, which every chance of doing, could be a huge score.
With Muniz, though, like, with that loss of like structure around Crystal Palace, will he still be getting those kind of accumulating wing back points? Or because we haven't really seen him probably since everything's unfolded. So
since it hit the fan, I would think so, because they've still got the same sort of formation lineup and stuff. Apparently, the manager was saying it was good to have him back in the team and good to have Sarr return, because they had like some momentum and like happiness around the place for a change. It's just whether they come into it and they go, "Oh, I don't want to be here," because everyone else doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, it's like I feel like he's got one foot out the door, but I still also think he is still a good option, especially against a Forest side who do give up points to defenders. Anderson's probably a big one in this one for me as well. I don't know if I've got him in my side yet, just because there were so many kind of players for so few spots to put them in. But accumulators in games that are kind of like this is just like a dream come true.
Yeah, agreed. Anderson came out really well in like all my stats, and I think he's done well against Palace in the past.
Sarr coming back for Crystal Palace, is that an option?
For sure.
Like as a forward though,
he was decent last week too, on his like return. So I'd imagine against a Forest who could concede definitely here to that style of player, I think he could be a good point of difference this week.
Yeah, and especially with so many question marks around, Mateta probably leaves a lot of kind of space up there.
That is the only thing, though. Like, if he's forced to play striker, which he's played in the past for other teams, against two big centre backs that they've got, it could be a struggle. But it could work out well, because he might just outpace them and break the lines.
Now, do we know, is Johnson moved across to Crystal Palace in GameDay Squad yet? I'm just double checking now.
I think he did with the latest player pool.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
we should get another player pool at the end of the window.
Could that, if he's available this week for them?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst. He could even play striker. I don't know if he's done it much at Tottenham, but yeah.
Yeah, he is there as as Crystal Palace player now, so that could be a decent shout actually.
Pino could play striker too. He's done it at, I think it was Villarreal before this. Like, he's playing the wing plate at striker. So all three of them could rotate there or play there.
Attacking options for Forest, though, this is kind of where it's a little bit interesting. Striker, was it Igor? He's someone who I've never fully been able to commit to, mainly because of the opportunities. But is he good enough, or is he just he needs the goals kind of player? I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, he's a different player than I thought he was at the start of the season. Like, he's very good in the air and hold up play. So he's not necessarily the worst. It's just against their defense, which is probably Richards, Lacroix, and Cavott. I would say it's not an ideal matchup for him. He's probably going to be double teamed or lose the ball in the air to those guys because they're great in the air. He might not even play, to be honest, because Wood's still out. There's rumours around Mateta going there, but hasn't yet, obviously. But I'm pretty sure they just signed Lorenzo Luca, so he could feature for the first time.
Interesting.
Yeah, signed on loan from Napoli, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, okay. Could be all right. Obviously, won't be in GameDay Squad yet, though, to pick. Gibbs White's probably the other kind of creative guy in there who I think if there is going to be a goal from Forest, he'll be kind of involved with it, hopefully in like either the assist or goal capacity, but he will be, key pass regardless, should be getting some points there. I can't see myself picking him. Just again, I think he's a midfielder in GameDay Squad. So,
and it's like you're picking him or Anderson, you're probably going Anderson.
Exactly right. Anderson's definitely the safer option there. Gibbs White has the potential to go like a 30-point game though. So
yeah, he's on pens as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing, I never really think about pens too much personally. I think pens are really big for like FPL, where you're kind of picking players for like a span of time. But yeah, it's great if they come off, but it's
I think it's sort of like that thing where if you're deciding between a 50-50, it's like, he's on pens, so maybe him.
Yeah, like at the start of the season, I was like, oh, who's on pens for Arsenal? And then I was like considering it and trying to like pick it, and then they just didn't have any pens anyway, so it was irrelevant. But it's just, it consumes and it makes us feel like we're making big decisions, but it's probably actually just overthinking. All right, 2 more games, smash through them so we can rip the packs and go to bed. Tottenham City.
Yeah.
Back, surely.
Well, it's an interesting one because City, especially recently, Spurs have been their bogey team.
Mm.
So they lose to them a lot. Albeit, as I think we noted last week, Spurs are a better away team than they are a home team this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in this matchup, it's been the same. Like City have gotten the better of them when they've played at Spurs. So City lineup will have a bit of info for in terms of Semenyo was ineligible for Champions League, so he's probably going to start this game. Where he probably will, but he's not pickable yet in GameDay Squad unless you want a 0. A lot of people,
out.
yeah. Rodri. Well, is Rodri out for this one? He was suspended for the Champions League.
I think so he's back now. Yeah,
probably plays for this one. Probably nails him on because he missed that. Kushnov's an interesting one if he is the partner to Gui, because a lot of people clocked onto the fact last week and were like sending me teams with him in there. And then later I was like, pretty good idea because you can't select Gui. Gui makes them stronger, probably going to get a clean. They did in the end, and Kushnov was decent. The thing that like made me hard to pick him was Aki could have started. So either or, Gui's probably the nailed on one. Not sure about those two. O'Reilly played DM in Rodri's place for the Champions League this morning, so he might go back to the fullback. Aït-Nouri played there while O'Reilly was in midfield.
Yeah, O'Reilly is a midfielder though at GameDay Squad, so it kind of makes him like an awkward pick regardless.
Same with Nunez.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of information about the team. I gather Halland's back to start in every game. He's had his rest now.
Surely.
If Marmoush is going to play, it's probably going to be because Doku's injured this morning. And I'm not sure how bad it is yet, but if he's out, then it might mean Marmoush goes wide, Semenyo stays on that right side, and then Foden or Cherki take up one of the midfield spots.
Yeah, I think, like Cherki's potentially could. There's not enough room for both Cherki and Foden. It's really with Semenyo now, Haaland, Cherki. You want like Rodri
it's a bit awkward with him.
Like,
they could definitely play lineups with them both in there where they play the 2 central cams without the wingers, or one of them could play wing. Like Cherki could easily play wing without Doku. But it's just like, it makes it risky when they're not the lineups we get access to.
Yeah, and then Reinders as well is another one who's trying to squeeze in there. Like
exactly,
too many options.
Cherki's more likely to score off less minutes, I would say, in terms of general points. So if you're going to pick either or, I'd probably lean towards Cherki at the moment because we don't know if Foden's starting despite the rest this morning.
Yeah, and Foden's form as well, even when he does play, hasn't been like he had that purple patch where I just refused to pick him for no good reason, and then started picking him when it dropped off. So it's probably my fault. But it's kind of concerning that we're like, if you're trying to pick the one with minutes, is it even worth it if Foden is the one who gets minutes?
Thing with Foden as well, it lines up when he moved to the central midfield role. So he's sitting deeper, having to defend a bit. That's when his points started dropping.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Haaland has to be back in as a lock now. Do Tottenham have any assets that you'd consider here? Like, because I think Porro's injured. I think I saw.
Yeah. So Udogie and Spence, I think, will be getting at the fullbacks.
Yeah, but then, like, would you even consider them this week against a City?
They're a bit too defensive and like for fullbacks for GameDay Squad related. So you probably won't get your regular stacking from them. And then City's probably going to score. So I think it rules them out of options. I'd say Ramiro if you want to pick a defender from Spurs, and that's just because maybe he scores from a corner or a set piece again, where he obviously makes them stronger back there. There's not too many options from Spurs. You might find like a Simmons or like Odegaard on the counter. But like I was saying in the stream, like Odegaard did really well, scored really well last round. I've seen him play a bunch and he just isn't great on the eye test.
Yeah. I'd like, to be honest, I tend to not bother watching the Spurs games lately, so I couldn't tell you. What about Solanke? Like, he's back and forced to start based on the injuries that Tottenham have. Anyway, if he can start, he will be starting. City, this fixture feels like even if City do win, like I don't know if they'll keep it clean. They're really good at just like conceding one goal.
Yeah, I think that'll be a bit better now with Guehi back there.
Yeah, okay.
Albeit, if they do score, it wouldn't surprise me if it's Solanke. He's going to be a very selectable player when they have the right fixture now, because with their more creative players that brought in like Simmons and Kudus, when Kudus is back, we'll start to see someone who can actually finish the chances. So I'd rate him against like a lot of those targetable teams we typically see, like a Burnley, a Bournemouth, a Leeds, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. When's Kulusevski back? Is he coming back or is he?
He's been out a while. Same with Madison's obviously the ACL, so he's like probably season, if not back end of the season, he gets back.
Yeah, it's pretty grim.
Gallagher, I don't think is in the player pool yet. By the way, I think he's coming with the next update.
Yeah. Okay. Right. It's pretty grim over there. I think just steer clear, and then Haaland, Semenyo probably, and maybe a Jerky if you're happy to take a bit of a risk on some minutes. But
you could go Donnarumma too, because chance they don't concede, he sees a bit of action because it's Spurs. Obviously, like I said, bogey team for City, so maybe they concede because they typically do against them. But not the worst selection with Donnarumma. Yeah,
and he's such a good keeper. Like a genuine keeper. It's just, I don't know. Like
he just tend to concede chances where it's like not savable shots. So then he looks worse than he is.
Exactly. Yeah. Like against United, just making something like where he was just getting peppered, just like stacking up some points in a big loss. But let's move on to the last one of the round, and it is Sunderland versus Burnley. What do you think? Is he selectable again, Hume?
He's not, but I wouldn't get off-put by Sunderland last round. Like, I think that's a big pitfall this week not to do. Burnley targetable. Yeah, West Ham were targetable, but this is at Sunderland home. I'm pretty sure they haven't lost in the league at home this season. So different sort of team when they play there. Malia's really selectable. He was great last week still despite that loss, like getting forward, takes those long throws like Coyote does, so a chance that they score off one of them and then he gets an assist. So I rate him. Ballard I like against teams that struggle from set pieces. Burnley aren't the greatest, so I think Ballard's a chance. a decent selection. It's just you're probably a bit worried about last week, so you probably only go one, especially if you're going Royce too. Royce I'd lean a bit more away from. I know it's like Sunderland probably still going to concede some chances because, they probably will to any team. But if they don't, and you get that typical clean sheet for 10 or 0, if he concedes, it's probably one of the few weeks you might want to avoid Royce just because you might not see much action.
Yeah, I think he'll still be okay. I just think there's some actual genuine good options this week. So, I'm not picking him, which is probably the first week in a while I haven't picked him. Good question here from Maxi. Is going both keepers in this one a decent play?
So you could, Royce, like I said, it's whether he sees enough action. So if you think he might, then sure. Dubravka, I think, is a good option this week because if they do make a 0-0 here, because Burnley's obviously going to set up a low block as well. I think Burnley beat them 2-0 in the reverse fixture, and everyone thought Sunderland was going to win that. So he's definitely going to see action here. I could see myself picking Dubravka. He has some big weeks. He's probably there, without looking, he's probably their leading GameDay Squad scorer.
I think he is, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. The other player I've got there from Burnley is Cole Walker, who's the last couple of weeks has actually turned it on in terms of GameDay Squad scoring, which we might not have noticed if we weren't just keeping spreadsheets, because I still don't think it was that relevant necessarily. But is he someone that you could potentially pick in one of these games?
The main thing with him is the role at the moment, because they're playing the back 5/wing back, right mid, left mid combo. So anybody that plays in that role is always worth a look. He, of course, I don't know what his pace is like these days. Obviously, he used to be quite quick. Decent player. So, you could go him as a pod because he's a defender playing a bit out of position against.
Ooh. Sorry, we just lost Donald again quickly. You back?
Back. So, I was just saying you could select him because he's playing against a team that's coming off a heavy loss. But like I said, Sunderland home, completely different. I could see a 0-0 here or 1-0 to either side. So I don't mind picking the defenders from either or the keepers from either, albeit what Roast, like I said, might not get action. But yeah, it could be a sneaky game that you could target the back line from that not a lot of people jump on because they're nervous about Sunderland from last week and because they don't want to select Burnley because they could get beat quite easily here.
Yeah, I almost don't mind the opposite and kind of doubling down on Sunderland struggling. Xhaka's still out, which I think was probably a decent reason for the struggles they had last week.
I totally blanked on the fact too. I saw the lineups and I'm like, afterwards, I probably shouldn't have selected this many Sunderland players when he wasn't playing.
Yeah, but someone like an Anthony who has scored pretty well. They started incredibly well. The first few weeks, they were almost up there with number one forward. Dropped right off, lost starting time. Now they're back. They're kind of sitting in that 10 to 20 kind of scores for the last 5 or so weeks. I don't mind him as a cheeky, spicy, very spicy pod here against maybe Sunderland defence who could be crumbling here. Yeah.
The other two I don't mind. So I don't mind that at all because Sunderland as well, they're a team tend to concede some point stacking because they sit back and they allow them to have the play. Could be a bit back and forth with that this week with both teams sitting back. I don't mind Enzo Lefebvre from Sunderland, especially with Xhaka out because he's going to do most of the bringing the ball forward. So he's probably going to point stack. Burnley are horrible for concede and that sort of stuff. Whenever Liverpool play them with Verts and Solskjaer, you happily play them because they stack up tons of points. Same sort of thing. The other one I don't mind is Broby. He was good last week, scored a late header. He looks like a really good striker, your typical guy who does it in the air, decent in his feet, not overly quick, but yeah.
He just seemed a bit big and lanky, but still, dominant at the same time. Yeah.
Knew what he was doing, sort of striker.
Yeah. No, I wrote that as well. I think I had him in one of my sides last week. I know you were big on him. But yeah, it's going to be, and this is going to be the last game on the Tuesday morning for us, where it could be people stack this game. So the leaderboard's going to be all over the place until the very final update. So it's going to be a very, very interesting week. But that wraps up the game. So we'll quickly run through our two squads each, and then we'll open some packs. So we'll start with your squad while I get the wheel all sorted like we normally do. I'll get it full screen so people can see it, but talk us through it.
Yeah, so it always happens with these streams. We run through all the options, and then I have in the back of my head, okay, I'm going to change this, change that. But for now, I was actually really happy with this going into the stream, and I sort of still am. So we've got Saka up top, a bit more surety now that he starts, and like we get the lineup. So if he doesn't, I just whip him out of there. So him and Haaland, pretty typical. Watkins is going to be popular this week because opposition's terrible away, done well in the past against them. Rodgers, now that we've chatted about it, he's there at the moment, but a bit less so because he's probably going to have to drop deep and create and not create in a way that's going to get him points. So he might drop out, and I'll bring, like, if I'm confident on a João Pedro, maybe a João Pedro in. Enzo, I'm really high on because I think they could easily score a fair few goals in that game. I don't think we touched on him when we were reviewing the game, but I think he's definitely one to look at, even if he's not in that central attacking midfield role, if Palmer occupies that. Lafay, we mentioned, he should stack regardless, so I don't need a goal or assist from him. I just need him to, like, play, and he should go all right. Rice should start based on being suspended for the Champions League. Did well against Leeds last time. I think he scored. And the way Leeds play will have been lately so attackingly, they're going to be open for chances. Bueno, we touched on, big point stacker. Bit of a point of difference that some people might clock on do. Some people might just not rate them against Bournemouth. Matty Cash, a lot of people are going to play him, especially Villa at home. A lot just gravitate towards him nowadays, and you should. Then I've got typical Gabriel, like most people have. I've only got the one Sunderland at the moment with Murkier because I think he's more likely for an attack and return. Martinez and Sanchez, my keepers, good chance of clean sheets for both of them, and both likely to see some sort of action to increase their score in those high in like 20s. And then we've got Tarkowski and Fernandez to finish it off. Like, everyone's probably going to play Bruno. Tarkowski, a lot of people playing right now because even without clean sheets, he's stacking points up.
Yeah, very nice. Our teams aren't too dissimilar this week. A few slight changes. So I've gone Haaland, Semenyo, Saka, Pedro. Did you say you had Semenyo?
No, I didn't, but he's an option I could go for Rodgers.
Yeah. No, interesting. So yeah, Haaland, Semenyo, Saka, and then I've got Pedro in there at the moment. He's the one who will probably, if I do decide to go Watkins, will come out. Enzo, Faye, Gomez, and then Munoz. Basically, you can read it there. We've talked about him. I've got Human at the moment. That's more just to annoy Zonald there. But I don't mind it as a bounce back here. Like, people picked him for a reason. And if he scored well, would be all over him. So we can't be basing our decisions on one game. Yes, it's a -10 game, which looked terrible, but this would be the biggest pod play I think anyone's ever kind of, not that's a big call, not anyone's ever done, but it'll be a huge pod call. And I don't think I'll I don't think I'll commit to it, but it's a chance that it could happen. But in defense, I've got Munoz and I have LaCroix as well. Or Lacroix. Is it Lacroix or LaCroix? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think, because it could go either way, yeah.
Yeah, and also, Henderson. I've got Bruno in there, but I've been swapping between Buemo and Bruno. a fair bit. But yeah, who knows? I've got to back it up after last week. And last week was a bit of I had a lot of weird picks in there, which worked out well for me. So I'm starting to think maybe that's the way to go. But any stinkers in there apart from Hume, obviously?
I'm going to try to hold off the Hume. Like, I know, so a lot of people aren't selecting him because of the negative and because he gave the penalty away. I'm more selecting because I watched him play last week and he was horrendous.
Yeah. So maybe it was just a bad shout to begin with rather than just an unlucky.
Yeah, probably shouldn't pick players I haven't seen play before or haven't paid attention to.
That's not a bad shout for, someone who's teaching everyone who to pick. Right. That is it for the teams. So we're going to finish off, rip open some packs. If you aren't subscribed already, please do subscribe to the channel because it does help us out. We are trying to build, we are trying to expand outside of, the audience we have, which we appreciate, but we need to grow. So give us a like and subscribe, and it really helps. What I will do now is I'll swap over to the wheel. Got the names on there. Thanks to Mel, as always. Got a few people in here, so got 2 packs to open. Really hope that our new viewer Aston gets on there because everyone deserves it, but it would be nice to do. So tag a Finn. Getting the first lot, and then the second one. Right, we've done it.
There we go.
That's exciting. Aston, congratulations. I did say in the chat that you might have had to duck out, but if you do watch back and see this, we will make sure these whatever cards get to you. And normally we tend to be pretty generous with giving away the whole pack. So hopefully we get some good stuff for you if you're just starting up. So
yeah, Aston's new to the Discord. Everyone should say hi when you're in there.
Yeah. So we will jump over to my GameDay Squad account, which I did remember to load up the packs. I might just give it a quick refresh just to make sure that it doesn't break when you open the packs. It's a bit better. Right. Let's go. So which row do you want?
I'll go middle.
Middle, as always. All right, maybe didn't actually refresh. I'll go again. Having some browser issues here. I think the browser's just struggling a little bit. Hang on, I'll just disconnect the screen sharing and load a new tab up just because that might help. All right, yep, so I didn't open the pack, so very good. Share this one. Sorry about that. Hopefully this will work this time. And what are we going to play packs? All right, so you said middle, hey? There we go. Oh, starting off with a diamond here, at least, maybe a legend. But so your middle on bottom and Tagger Finn is on top. So we have for you Gold Rodri. Pretty much a lock this week. Maybe not super playable, but still reliable. Goodmanson, I think, I don't know if he's returned from injury yet. But
yeah, he's a bit, maybe 50-50 be back.
Let's make it a little bit bigger without it going weird. And Wilson, that's a decent card. Harry Wilson in silver form, which is probably not far off where you'd be looking to kind of allocate your multi for him. For me, we have a Christie, we have a Laurent, and we have
the diamond.
The diamond. But look, it won't be
not too bad.
Not bad.
Now he's back.
Yeah. Sorry, look, if it was a look, Taggy, you can have that, to be honest, if you want it, just because it was the pack for you. Masueku, let's say his name. Declan Rice on gold is pretty tasty there. And then finally, Zubamendi. So not a bad overall pack for a common pack.
For sure.
Next one we'll give away to Aston, our new viewer. I'm pretty happy to say that he can have the whole pack, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, just to get him started, because, you know, we all remember where we were when he first kind of got into this, and it's always nice to give people a hand. Hopefully there's some decent cards in there for them.
Hopefully some playable.
Yeah. So Semenyo. That's pretty nice. Imagine if he'd just come in, possibly starting down the lower comp, so that's nice. Dunk. Danny Welbeck is definitely a usable player, which is nice. Nkapi.
Yeah, he's in the rotation.
Bizzet probably. Well, might get half.
Depends when Martinez is injured, because he's been getting some game time. But same sort of thing. He's in most of the time.
Yeah, and then finally Pino.
Should see a lot more starts with Mateta gone if he does.
Very interesting. Not the worst pack. Definitely some playable, cards there. So look, if I was starting up, I'd be very happy with that. I'll just take a quick screenshot. But that does us for the episode. It was actually quite a long one. We ran an hour and a half, which was nice. A lot to talk about. Probably half of it was just me talking at the start about the leaderboard. But yeah, any final pieces of advice for the viewers, Donald?
Don't pick Hume.
Oh, I reckon pick him. I think
he'll pull out 30 point an hour and everyone's going to go, oh.
Yeah, and remember, I'll be like, oh, remember what I said on stream? Like last time when I said Haaland wasn't going to start on stream. And, oh, no.
No, it's not going to.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye on the Discord, because we're going to be launching a lot of new stuff in the coming days, weeks, especially around AFL as well. So things are looking good.
Some content.
We will. And believe it or not, our friendly neighborhood Zonald is an AFL expert as well as an EPL expert. So if you love his content with the EPL blogs, the data, everything like that, expect bigger things with bigger things might be a stretch, because we haven't talked about that yet, but we will be pushing more stuff out. So thank you for watching. Remember, please subscribe if you can, share us around, and best of luck. Not too much luck though, because I want another win.
Yeah.